Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting order. Roll call.
All right. All right. Commissioner Blomgren? Here. Commissioner Weingart?
Here.
Commissioner Miles?
Here.
Commissioner Phipps?
Here.
Commissioner Elson?
Here.
Very good. Vice Chair Janowski?
Here.
And Chair Casissa.
Here, if we can stand, pledge allegiance to the flag.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry, Commissioner Engstrom?
I'm here.
Apologies.
Get that on the record.
Definitely.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open our meeting up to public comment. Is there anyone here from the public wishing to speak on a topic that is not on the agenda? Okay, with that, I will close public comment. We have no presentations, nothing under the consent calendar, so we'll move to business items. As everybody notices, we moved the agenda around a little, so we moved the business items up so that they're coming first. Do you want to kick off the reintroduction on the dog park, Mario?
Sure.
Kind of give a little background.
Just a real quick update to it. So as you all know, we introduced an ordinance amendment to the town council at their last March meeting. The council approved to move that forward. So there is a second reading that will happen at their next meeting on April 3rd. And then there is a 30-day waiting period until the the ordinance can be amended or ratified. So with that, there was conversation during that process on the commission's work and the future of a dog park in Corte Madera. The council made it abundantly clear that they would like to see some options for a dog park, and we are bringing it back to the commission for consideration to open up discussion and put together a future outlook plan for the next 3 to 6 months on how we could put together a plan to present that to the council in an upcoming meeting. So it is in the commission's hands at this point for discussion, and be happy to answer any questions from staff's point of view if we're able to.
Well, we already have the background, right? The 4 options and their
3.
pluses and three pluses and minuses.
Right, so there's a report that was put together by MIG. It was a draft report. It was never finalized because the commission at that point didn't feel strongly enough that there was a ability to support any one decision to come from that. So it's something that we would obviously bring forward and use that draft as a model for moving forward. There are 3 locations on that report that are identified. I would recommend investigating other sites and identifying other sites as well.
Can you, for the benefit of new commissioners, just give the background, the 2-minute version or 3-minute version on the dog park? How
Sure.
it came to us and...
Sure. So back in 2016, the commission began work on exploring the idea of a dog park. Throughout I would say most of the 2016 and part of the 2017 year, there was a lot of input from those interested who wanted a dog park to the commission. The commission then at that point recommended that we look at engaging a consultant to put together a report to identify some of the best locations that we could. There was a lot of discussion about whether it would go on the bay side, whether it would go on the west side of Corte Madera, parts of town where it would be accessibility, parking. There's a lot of different conditions that could and could not go without the, in terms of what the commission was going to support. MIG took all the input that we had, I believe, 1 if not 2 community outreach meetings, and we presented a few different options. We looked at survey results as well, and MIG took that all into consideration and synthesized a draft report for us. In late 2017, early 2018, the commission had that draft report. At that point, we didn't feel strongly one way or another towards any one location that the commission could fully support and move to recommendation to the council. So at that point, the item was tabled for potential future discussion.
Any questions from Mario?
There was at some point talk about a piece of property over on the west side that was gonna become available because of, I can't remember,
It was
The Golden
Golden Gate
Gate.
Transit.
The Golden
Yeah.
Gate Bridge District, yeah, there was, as far as I know, that did not happen. The land exchange or the way that it was, I'll say deeded or, but the work that needed to go in there was not gonna happen.
And remember, there was a group of people that came in and pushed hard for the tunnel site, right, near the tunnel?
Correct.
yeah, they somehow thought that us not considering that piece of property by the tunnel for a dog park was because we thought that the tunnel was gonna be open, but that piece of property is owned by the railroad, is my understanding, so it's not even an option.
I believe, but I'm not sure, and we'll have to, maybe Mario can validate this for us. If I can remember, I think Marin County owns that land, but they had deeded it to the town, but they still reserved the right to put a bicycle path there.
Mhm.
So,
And was there one site that was the gravel lot that's now a parking lot?
You mean that's the Golden Gate Bridge site?
Oh, it is?
no, I think you were talking where they built the new parking lot.
Yes, it used
There
to be the
was, but I
gravel lot.
think, because they've already built the parking lot,
That's
was
what
on
I'm
the
saying.
edge
So
of
one
that.
of the sites is completely
Not
out of the
replaced.
picture then, because it's now a parking lot.
Correct.
So we have two sites really then.
No,
Well,
that
if I
wasn't
can-
ever one of our official sites.
no, if I can remember, the three sites were
Pixley,
Pixley,
Porter Cooley.
Porter Cooley, which is across from DMV, off
Mm-hmm.
the bicycle path, and then Town Park behind Petco.
The east side,
Yeah, it was
Well,
those
the other
three.
one was the strip of land right here by
The-
The
That-
parking lot.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what Emily meant
Pixley.
when she said
Yep.
Pixley.
That's Pixley Avenue.
So it was those three.
I think one thing as a commissioner, I don't know what other potential available sites exist, because I don't know what town-owned land there is that we could potentially look at to choose from.
well,
I think maybe one thing is, I don't know if you still have, because I think one time we came up with the list, but we kind of, at that point in time, we'd gotten it down to like three sites, because, for example, Cove came up to put one over there, but it's under a joint use agreement with the school district, so we kind of ruled that one out.
Yeah.
It's come up about across from CHP, there's kind of like a gravel type area off the bicycle path. That came up. Or Bayside Park, which is actually runs along that path. There's no accessibility. There's no parking accessibility. But we can go back, we should probably go back and revisit those. And
Yeah,
see if there's any that we may
staff
have
would
missed.
recommend that we look at all the sites and maybe even reach out further to include some other sites that we'd be considering that we haven't in the past.
yeah, including, unfortunately, I arrived at that meeting a little bit after 7, and they'd already been through that part of it. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard of a town council meeting going.
You turn your
Oh,
mic on.
The buttons on the side.
It's down there.
Oh, okay. Of a town council meeting going, it was like a total of 55 minutes, but by the time I got there, we were past it. I did look at the video, and one of the council members suggested carving out a part of Town Park, which I guess now that, I think we left that off because of the ordinance of no dogs before, right? Because no dogs in the
It was one of
park.
the places that we were looking at. That was one of our sites.
Yeah. The hand will come out otherwise.
One of the areas in the park was one of the sites that we looked at.
Yeah, I think there was resistance to taking green space in Town Park for a
Right.
dog park.
Right, okay.
And I thought there was a parking issue as well.
There was concern about parking, yeah. And
the
there was concern
neighbors,
about proximity to the water. But I think, what I saw in the video of the town council meeting and their direction was do a listing of the potential sites and their positives and minuses, and maybe rank them and present that to them.
Yeah.
Because every single site we have is gonna have a minus from
Yeah.
what we saw,
Right,
Definitely.
right.
So it's like, come up with a list of 5 to 7 or whatever number sites and just positives, minuses, and let them take it from there.
Let me do this real quick. Let me open it up for public comment. Anything on the dog park? If so, if you can just give your name, you're just gonna have to speak into the mic. If you can just give your name and address, please.
Oh, wait, did I just fix it?
Here.
No.
Our meetings are
Marianne.
our meetings are recorded, by the way. Okay.
Hi, I didn't particularly have a comment on the dog park, or, other than to say I support it because I don't want a no-leash ordinance in town park. I feel very strongly about that, and so I do very strongly encourage a dog park in Corte Madera because most everybody I know owns a dog, and they very much want to be able to take their dog somewhere where they can run off-leash. And dogs running off-leash is a big problem all over Corte Madera, even where all the on-leash signs are posted quite clearly. And so I think having an off-leash option is very important. I just wanted you guys to also take under consideration, which I'm sure you are, birds. Having the dog park near some of our marsh birds and some of that protected waterway areas when you're looking at other things. I love our town marsh birds, and I don't want them being chased off by dogs.
Thank you.
My name is Pajri Jacoby, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, I'll close public comment and bring it back to us. So-
Okay.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is this anything that we would consider working with Larkspur on, doing a joint dog park? Have they explored
They
that?
already have one.
They already
They
have one.
Yeah.
They have one in Piper
In
Park.
Pike Park
Yeah, I think the thing is, I think people are looking,
for something.
I know we're
closer
doing a
by.
lot of joint things with Larkspur Rec, but I think one of the things people are looking for is something local to our community
Okay.
versus
Having it
over there.
all the way over there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Although
some of
I
the
thought the
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the trouble I have with this whole thing. It's like, one of the public comments was, well, there's a dog park in Larkspur, there's a dog park in Mill Valley. How come we don't have one in Corte Madera? It's like, well, you can't go to Larkspur or Mill Valley?
Yeah, that's probably another topic of discussion.
I know some
I
of
don't
the
know. I just
feedback
don't
we
get it.
got was that they wanted a place they could just walk their dog to, but in reality, half the town is going to have to drive to
Correct.
whatever park we would build. So
And that's why I think we look at sites, we have to take into consideration east side and west side, not just this side, but both sides, the town as a whole.
yeah.
And I think one of the council members talked about having 2 dog parks, one for big dogs and one for small dogs.
Well, I know one time with the consultant we use, and I'm making this up because again, I can't give you the exact dimension, but if we take up an acre of space somewhere, do you designate X space for smaller dogs and then X space for larger dogs? I don't think, hopefully they didn't mean like a small one here and then a bigger one somewhere else, but it's all encompassing.
Yeah.
Any other comments? So then I would suggest, Mario, if staff can come back with us with the MIG report, a list of all sites, I want to say, or potentially all sites, not just the 3 that they looked at. And then I was looking online the other day. There was a survey we did, I think, through SurveyMonkey. If you can kind of, I'll see if I can find it, unless you have it. And why don't we present that also? Because on that survey, when I looked at it, it's almost like between Town Park, I think Pixley, and I think Porter Cooley, it was almost like even. It was like 52%, 40%, 39%. So it wasn't like one spot outweighed all the others. They were all relatively close. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, why doesn't everybody also just get creative and send, if you can think of any other locations, send them to Mario? I mean, it shouldn't just be him coming up with the sites,
Right.
I mean, we can all just, we know Corte Madera, so, he can come up with, if there's a reason we couldn't do it, but we might as well open it, we're expanding it anyway.
Yeah, it's a good idea. And I think it's better to have 50 sites and we can whittle them down by going, this one definitely is out because, if we try to put it over by where the playground area is, where that little pond is, there's too many birds there for lack of better words, but at least we can go, we looked at it.
Right.
And it definitely doesn't work because of A, B, C, D, and E versus these may work, but there's limitations. Parking, accessibility, whatever may come up. So,
Well, and we have the MIG matrix, so we can literally just take that, dump it into a spreadsheet, add some more sites, put pros and cons. I think that won't be hard. I mean, I can
Yeah,
I'll
no
send
need
you.
for another.
No, I don't think we need to get a consultant. I think we can do it pretty easy ourselves.
And I think the goal for us is kind of move forward and actually come up with a recommendation to town council, whether that be, here's a site we think would work, or whether it's something you said before, just ranking the 3 sites with the pros and cons.
Yeah.
And going, okay, we're recommending that, yes, there should be a dog park in Corte Madera. Here's 3 potential sites and the pros and the cons.
Mhm.
And then,
That
see how,
makes
let
sense.
them deal with it, so, okay. Anything else on the dog park? Okay, if we can go to 5B, a discussion commission and staff work for Skunk Hollow Mini Park.
Great, so I put this item on the agenda because we are going to start discussions about how to move forward with a plan for Skunk Hollow. I wanted to chat with the commission about timelines and how the commission feels about having 1 meeting with outreach to the public, 2 meetings, more, what the commission would like to see from Ross Recreation Incorporated, the playground manufacturing company. If we want to look at some more or different conceptual drawings, how we want to engage them with the public, how the commission wants to engage with the public, and kind of timeline that out and how we can do that over the next several months. So staff is looking for direction on that from the commission, and would come back to you with a draft plan at the next meeting.
I went to one of the skateboard meetings, skate park, where they had the people from the community and the ramp company there, which I thought was a good way to do it, because the people from the community and the kids would throw out like, hey, we would like this. And the person could, take that and knew exactly what they were talking about and kind of show them something conceptual. So I think it might be beneficial to have the equipment company at least one of those meetings.
Okay, so just so you know, the company can certainly probably speak to that. They probably wouldn't be prepared. They probably wouldn't be in a position to do as much of an interactive meeting with the public that way, in which they're looking at different options in terms of like space and meaning like kind of modeling the structure at a workshop type meeting. They can certainly provide input in terms of like, the matrix of square footage, but I don't think that they would be, it was certainly wonderful to see the consultants working with, or not the consultants, the ramp companies working with the kids. It would be a little bit different. It'd be probably more of, in terms of being able to provide,
I think they could put it in perspective.
no,
If- if
absolutely.
some-
I don't mean to diminish what they can't do, but they're not consultants in that way, I guess is maybe the best way to put
Right,
it.
but I think it's a good point, because they can put it in perspective in the sense that if somebody goes, oh, we should have, I'm making this up,
Right.
a 2-story playground that kids can climb 50 feet in the air,
And the person
they're gonna
could
kind of rein it
say,
in and go,
you don't have the footprint for that,
exactly.
right?
right.
So, and it makes our job easier too, because we can say, okay, well, that's off the table,
Right.
right?
Have we done a survey to see what people want? I mean, at our last meeting, we decided that, or I felt like we had some feedback about wanting both age groups combined. There was like an older group and a younger group, and that it would be nice to have both groups have some kind of equipment on the same site, but I don't know if that's possible. But also, I don't know, what does the community want and people with those age children?
Well, that's why we're back thinking, it sounds like the direction we need to go is definitely have a community
meeting,
outreach.
Definitely.
Definitely have community outreach. I'm gonna just set up a time frame. Let me know if it's not possible. Is that something that can be done within the next 30, 45, 60 days?
Are you talking about doing that as separate from a commission meeting, or are you talking about, okay, so a different type of workshop, not a commission meeting?
Correct.
Okay, that's what I understand.
Similar to what we did for the skateboard park, with the caveat that, Ross Valley Equipment's not gonna sit there and say, oh, you can't, they'll put perspective on it.
Are you looking at doing that on one of them, 2 of them, during the week, on the weekend? What
Opinions?
is it that the commission is
I
looking
think for the skate park, we did a Saturday morning.
Yes, we did.
And I think that works well. Not everyone can, I don't know that we need to have 3 meetings just to accommodate people's. I mean, they can give input by email, they can send us messages.
Well, plus I assume it's going to go through at least 2 or 3 of our meetings, at
Right.
least. So they would have the opportunity to speak at that also.
Would it make sense to do something like that as a part of one of our meetings? Just do it on a Monday night?
I think if we do that, the thing is, we don't know if we're gonna have 3 people show up or 25 people show up. And then we wouldn't be able to cut off that for our meeting. It's almost like we'd have to set up a workshop separate. We could do it on the same night, but separate from our meeting.
Okay.
Well,
But if we did that again, I don't know if, and I'm just purely making up the time, you know, if we start the workshop at 6 o'clock and the workshop goes till 7:30, again, I don't know the time, we just don't know the timing of it.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing, it's one half dozen or the other. You have some people that may not be able to make it on a Saturday morning, but then you have other people that are gonna sit there saying, well, I work,
Make it on
so I
Yeah.
can't make it at 6 o'clock at night on a Monday.
Yeah.
It's one half dozen or the other.
Well, if you have one weekend meeting and then advertise, like, we're still open to hearing your input, please email, come to the regular Parks and Rec Commission meeting so that people know they can still
Yeah,
come and
I think
give
that's a good
input.
idea.
So it's a Saturday morning meeting and another evening meeting that's not part of the Park and Rec Commission? Is that what we're discussing?
One Saturday meeting, it sounds like
I'd say
for
one
sure.
Saturday
One
meeting,
Saturday
and then maybe
meeting.
just have them come to a Park and Rec
And
meeting.
have it on the agenda for a commission?
Yeah.
Okay, but the Saturday morning meeting would not be a commission meeting, that's purely a workshop?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the other question is, do we want to do it at, did you have anything to speak on, did you want to speak on, I'm sorry.
I was here purely to hear about the dog park.
Okay, thank
thank
you.
you.
We appreciate your time and
Thank
your
you.
comments. With that, just note that there's no one from the public, so we don't need to open up for public comment and then close it. The other question is, do we want to, and I don't know if we can pull this off, do we actually want to have the workshop at Skunk Hollow? Because if it's in that local community, it's
That's
something
actually a good
something
idea.
we've never done before, is actually to have it at the
You're more
park.
likely, I mean, those are the people that care the most, are people that live in Madera del Presidio and in that neighborhood back there. And do we have a budget, I mean, I know we have budget constraints, but like with the public, do we just is it sort of like wish list and then we actually have to then scale back? Or do we want to sort of manage expectations that we're trying to do
Yeah, no, let me touch on that for a minute. So this is a conversation that we are planning on having Skunk Hollow on the 2019-2020 capital fiscal year project, which would most likely be a 2-year budget. So it's possible that it could span one of those 2 fiscal years, 2019-20 or 2021. And so the point is to start these conversations early so that we're able to have a pretty good plan of putting this into practice towards the second half of the calendar year next year, so a year from now, ideally. So we don't have a budget number right now. We would be working on conceptual ideas. But we obviously do have constraints of space, so there's certainly considerations that would limit us there.
So going back to workshops, that's something we can do in the next 30, 45, 60 to 90 days? What time, I'm trying to get more the time frame down when we can do that.
I think, so we're at, sorry, let me look at the calendar.
We're almost into April.
Or in April. Yeah, I would certainly recommend that if we want to do that, we do that before we hit summer. So
So with late April, early May work?
I'd say mid-May at the latest,
Okay,
before the May meeting,
okay.
before the May commission meeting. And maybe try to get it, actually, May we wouldn't be having a commission meeting unless we reschedule because it's on Memorial Day. So one of the Saturday mornings we look at having a workshop one of the Saturday mornings in May.
Okay, so if you can, why don't you come back to us at our next meeting with a date to have that workshop?
We'd probably want to
We need to do it. We
do
need to
that
notice people
beforehand.
sooner.
Okay.
That's too late. And would you normally then just do a blast email?
Yeah, we'd do it on probably Nextdoor, email
Nextdoor,
blast,
yeah,
put it up
okay.
on the marquee.
Perfect.
We'd do some special noticing.
So do we want to pick a date now?
Yeah, we should. Possible.
So the first 3 Saturdays of May are May 4th, 11th, and 18th.
I'd shoot for the 4th. Somebody think on the 11th, there's something with NRG on the
Spring
11th.
It's
break.
Mother's Day weekend, the 11th. I don't know that that matters. May 4th. Good.
Yeah, I wouldn't do Mother's Day.
No, that's on a Sunday. Saturday, May 4th? Say earlier in the month is better.
Oh, that's April.
Yeah, one thing to note, because it's not a commission meeting, it's nice for commissioners to go because this way you hear input, and you can see what people are thinking, but it's not, again, it's not a meeting, so you're not like, it's not a must show up.
Yeah.
But it is beneficial because, again, you just hear the feedback. So does May 4th?
Sure.
Sure.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Can we pick 2 days? Can we say May 4th and 11th, or May 4th and May 18th, just to, so we have some flexibility? I'll
Yep.
look at my calendar and see what's going on.
Yep.
Those
Okay.
weekends, I
That's
just don't know off the
fine.
top of my head.
Yep,
Okay.
that's fine.
Okay, so 4th and 18th, or 4th and 11th? Or
4th and 11th.
4th and 11th.
What time do you think we do it? Morning?
I'd say
10.
probably 9:30 or 10 a.m., yeah, something like that.
You said the 4th and the 11th?
Yeah, we'll pick between those 2 dates. Okay, and then the understanding would be that maybe we have a special meeting of the commission, then in May, we reschedule, and have more public outreach at that point.
We can, or it would probably be better instead of June when we get into summer months. If we don't have a special meeting, if we don't meet it all in May, we just move it to June, we could do it at the June meeting.
Sure.
And I think the other thing is the public's always welcome to email staff and let them know thoughts. So preliminary, the plan is workshop, public workshop, either May 4th, 11th, or 18th, depending on the day. Our June meeting, we also use that meeting to also gather public comment. Then after that, we're looking at trying to figure out what people want between that and then Ross Valley equipment and trying to mesh somewhat the two together.
Right, so we
To
would
come up with
take,
something
we would take,
reasonable.
we would take public comment at that time. We would take public comment from those meetings and then whatever other form that people submitted
Okay.
to. We can certainly look at the potential for some level of survey, if you'd like, to the local group. Maybe that's something that the Corte Madera, the Twin Cities Mothers Club, could assist with. I'm not sure. We can chat with them. So synthesize that into a summary report and bring it to the commission at that point, and have the groundwork set for some recommendations.
Okay,
Sounds good.
okay, sounds like a plan. Anything else on Skunk Hollow? No? Okay, we'll move to 5 points, the approval of February 25th meeting minutes. Everybody get a chance to read the minutes?
Yes.
Any changes, corrections, additions? Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Move to approve February 25th minutes?
Is there a second?
I second it.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, call for the vote.
Commissioner Blomgren?
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps?
Yes.
Commissioner Elson?
Yes.
Commissioner Miles?
Yes.
Commissioner Engstrom?
Yes.
Vice Chair Janowski?
I have to abstain because I missed that meeting.
And Chair Casissa?
Yes. Okay, 6, Director of Recreation and Leisure Services and Commission reports. Mario, your updates and reports.
Sure, just some quick updates. We've had a very busy February and March at the Rec Center. We've had a lot of community events, a lot of weekend events. We just finished our second dinner dance. Our last one is this coming Friday. All been very successful as far as I've heard a lot of good feedback. It was a sock hop theme this year. We also had hosted several events over the past month. There was the Persian New Year event, annual event that was done. The town, the mayor presented the organizer, Mrs. Smiley, who's been doing it for over 35 years, with a certificate from the town. The Park and Rec Department and the Commission and did a special thank you certificate to her, as well as gave her flowers. She's been doing this for a very long time, and there's a lot of, it's just a really great community event, so we're really happy to have hosted it for so long, and she was very appreciative, so that was a nice event that we did. We've had couple of memorial services, and we've had a couple of bar mitzvahs and birthday parties over the past month too. So it's just been a busy couple months. And as we wind down the dinner dances, we go into our spring events. We start looking at opening the soccer fields, Little League's in full swing. We had opening day a couple weeks ago. There's several different user groups that are ramping up their spring seasons. We have soccer clinics starting, tryouts in May for Corte Madera FC. And as you all know, summer playground registrations are starting the last couple weeks. The summer brochure will be out in mailboxes at the end of this week. And just a couple updates on the Age-Friendly Intergenerational Center. A lot of activities going around there. They're coming up on their 1-year anniversary, which is exciting. So they're working on having a celebration. They're continuing their schedule. We're working with them on working at more of a longer term outlook in terms of course classes offerings over a 6-month to year-long period of time. So I'm working with a subset of their steering committee on that, and but a lot of good things happening there. One of the items that I didn't bring too much attention to at our last meeting, but which is very exciting for us, is we are taking over the Inner Rhythm Dance Studio that's over at the Park Madera Center. That's a 25 by 25 square foot dance studio, which the town has let us take over the administration and operation of that, which is a really wonderful opportunity. We'll be able to program in there and bring some classes. There are some classes and programs already there, so we'll be continuing those, but it'll also be another additional space that we can move some programs that we have now. This would be more of an appropriate space, and we're also expanding some of the offerings that we have in there. So really exciting news. It doesn't come up too often, so really cool. With that, I'd be happy to touch on anything else that the commission is interested in.
Any questions for Mario?
I'm curious if there's been any headway working with the school on the East Field. Any update?
I've taken a little bit of a time out just because
Yeah.
I know Brett's been busy with his budget conversations. So we'll be having a conversation with them before the end of the school year.
Okay.
In terms of grant funding is what we're looking at.
Any updates on the basketball courts?
Yeah, actually, I'll
Yes.
pitch that over to Emily.
Go ahead.
Let's see. Well, so our two primary sort of advocates for the redo of the court, Sean and Will, Mario, Fred, and I met with the two guys from DPW. And so we had a really good meeting. Sean and Will had a lot of good ideas. We went through drawings, ideas, then they kind of walked the court. So I think we're still in a sort of back and forth a little teeny bit about trying to come up with the best format that basically allows as many age group users to get, to maximize the use of that court. And we're not in a final decision yet. Anything else?
No, I just think it went really well. With
Yeah,
Public Works.
DPW was
They did a great
fantastic.
job.
RJ and Jamie seem great. They're, they're nice to work with, and so hopefully in the next couple weeks we kind of lock down the design, and then they're gonna try to spec it out for cost.
Yeah. And then the Lions Club has committed $2,500 to the basketball court.
Oh, that's nice.
Anything else from Mario? I'm sorry, go
Well,
ahead.
just, has there been any talk about trying to fundraise to cover additional costs for the basketball court, or is it not even come to that point yet?
I think the biggest issue is if you stay under $60,000, you don't need to go out for public bid, and it's a really onerous process the way RJ described it. So the goal is, I think, to keep it under there, and in that case, we have budget for it. Maybe at the time that there's like a phase 2, that might be, it's kind of my impression.
Okay.
That might be the time to do fundraising.
Are we considering any additions to the programming when this new court is up and running? Make sure we get a lot of use out of it? Or is there a possibility to explore making sure we have kind of basketball programs?
Yeah, actually, I'll make that. I think that's a conversation the commission certainly needs to undertake. I think what I spoke to at the meeting was in terms of the current status of the basketball court is that it's non-programmed, open use type of space. Not that can't change, but the way that it's administered and the way that it's scheduled, I think that's something that the commission would have to have a pretty thoughtful conversation on in terms of how they'd want to look at that moving forward. So the opportunity is certainly there, but I think it's something that's we'd need to have a good discussion on in the future.
Do you remember what their timeline is? I couldn't remember if they're looking at.
We're looking at having this done this spring, in the scope that we're talking about of
Right.
under
Right.
$60,000.
And one thing that did come up is we kind of went back and forth. Should there be permanent hoops or adjustable ones that can move up and down? Kind of discussed, the way the discussion went is to have permanent ones, because if they're adjustable ones, it's going to involve staff time.
And they don't last
Kind of
as long.
adjusting 'em.
They don't tend to
But we
break.
did come up with kind of a configuration where there would be two, I want to say, mini hoops for smaller kids. So we were trying to think more holistically and not just go, okay, it's a full-size basketball court for adults, but it's almost like it'll wind up being 3 courts. It'll be one lengthwise, one, and then two
Two short
going the other way. They're a little bit shorter, but one of those will have shorter hoops on them.
That makes perfect sense.
We did decide on shorter hoops, I can't remember now.
At least one set of shorter.
Yeah.
It's hard to try to figure out how to get 3 court areas in that without really having to expand the concrete footprint, and that's what gets very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a puzzle, like trying to not make it, see how wide it could be to have 2 short
Yeah.
courts going that way, so that's still in the works.
So that makes a lot of sense, and it's similar to the way they've got the basketball courts set up for Neil Cummins. They've got kind of 2 shorter ones and 2 taller ones, and I've seen them actually for even smaller kids bring in something they can hang on top to make the
Yeah.
hoop even smaller. So I think there are ways around the adjustable. So
Yeah. But
I
know
think
we-
one thing that Will and Sean have really been super helpful with is, just and not that it was laborious, but the amount of time we spent talking about like a 3-point line on the court and how,
Oh, they're,
they know the game really well, and they know not just the game of basketball, but in terms of like the culture of like how pickup games start, and how they flow. So I think it's been really helpful to have their input in terms of the nature of the kind of community that it would engage, in terms of how the court itself is sized. So there's some really good conversation there. So like Emily and Fred said, the meeting went really well.
Yeah, because they even went out, after we met, they went out and walked the court, because first we were talking about like a college-sized court. Again, I don't know the exact dimensions. But then after walking, I think they sent an email saying, no, it's better off putting a high school-sized court in there, but they went out there, they actually walked the whole thing, because I think they were trying to figure out, okay, where do you put 3-point lines so that they're not all intersecting?
Yeah.
And it looks like just a glob of lines. They also found somebody that I guess he actually paints courts, so he can do designer type stuff.
nice.
yeah, we talked about maybe doing some kind of local design with, like for the Corte Madera, the heron,
The
or,
logo,
The town
yeah.
logo.
yeah, I mean, something like that in the
Egret.
middle, and make it, the egret.
Bird.
Heron, egret.
Okay, any other questions for Mario? Okay, commission reports, town council updates. I'll give them really quick. I went to the town council meeting, the first one in March. They approved the
Fee resolution.
fee resolution. They didn't have a lot of questions. The only thing they brought up, they kind of went back and forth again on the NRGs. But it sounds like we may just give them a little leeway on that, but pretty much they approved it the way it was. And then on the one I didn't go, but I watched the video, the second one in March, again, it came up about, they passed the ordinance, but it has to go for a second reading. And then they brought up about the dog park. So I think that was pretty much it. Executive Advisory Committee, I don't think we met. We did not meet. Is there anything on the IGC programming ad hoc committee?
I had to work, I was not able to make the meeting.
It was a brief meeting that it was myself, Brian, Rebecca, Tracy, and Carla and Patty, or Carla, I can't remember, attended. We just talked a little bit about the new dance studio, and we mainly talked about how we're going to be looking out for a longer vision of programming and scheduling that would be able to help balance out the offerings between the Park and Rec Department and the Intergenerational Center, and how we utilize that space, and how we offer programs that are under the membership model or our programs that we're charging for. So it's a continuing conversation that we'll have at our next meeting.
Okay.
Do you have a time frame for the next meeting?
I don't. I'd like to do it in April.
Okay.
I'll send out some doodle schedules for.
Would it be possible to set a regular cadence to that meeting, like date and time?
Yeah,
just
because
for
then I
ease of
could
scheduling?
modify my schedule, but if I find out,
We
if
could.
patients
Yeah,
book
we can
6,
certainly
8
do
weeks
that.
in advance.
The third Wednesday at whatever time or whatever, fourth Tuesday
On,
whatever.
yeah, on a leap year, yes.
for consistency. Plus, you're right, it helps a lot with scheduling.
Yeah.
Okay. Did any commissioner have any individual updates, reports, anything they'd like to say?
I just signed 2 of my girls up for chess at Neil Cummins. It starts Wednesday. And they're really excited to go, something totally new to them. And I have a lot of friends that are signing their kids up too, so.
That's, yeah, it's really popular. My boys did that.
Yeah, it says the last time I checked, which was late last week, the website still said, location to be determined at Neil Cummins. So it starts Wednesday, but we don't know where.
Yeah, Brian usually communicates with the parents the day
Okay.
before, so I'm sure he'll do that tomorrow.
Because I have, a kindergartner going and I've got to coach her on how to get
Sure.
there, right? So to be able to walk her there for a couple days and show her where she needs to go would be helpful.
I don't know if the rooms are changing. There's a list of rooms that are on there for the last classes on the website, but I'll have to double check with Brian.
Okay.
But yeah, he'll be in touch with that tomorrow.
Go to walk to the big dog, make a left, and then the right at the small dog. Anybody else?
Yeah, my family attended the Night of Jazz that was held at the Rec
Oh, yeah.
Center.
Night of
I mean,
Blues.
Night of Blues.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was sold out. Yeah, so it's very popular, and the venue is so much better than what they used to have in the cafeteria at Redwood. So, yeah.
I do have a question about that. I was wondering why there were so few people allowed to go, because when I got there, I know it was sold out, but when I got there, there was a lot of extra space that I think more people could have gone.
I don't know how many tickets they sold.
I was told that the music instructor had sent out an email, and I was told that it was the fire regulations, and they couldn't sell more tickets because of the limited space per person in the rec center. That's what they said.
Yeah, I don't know what that number was.
Yeah,
but,
I'm not sure what the number.
We do have a capacity.
If you go in the community center, there's actually a sign that the fire marshal, I think within the last 6 to 9 months, put up. The fire marshal restricts how many people can be seated, standing, and there's a third category, I can't remember
Didn't
what
you
it
say it's
was.
175?
I think it's 175 for seating, I can't remember what it is for standing.
It's 175
For
for
seating.
a dinner format with no dance floor. It's 250 theater style seating and 350 standing, no seating.
Gotcha.
Okay, any other reports? Okay,
I took my daughter to the daddy-daughter dance, and it was really well run. It was great.
Okay, thank you.
anybody else? Okay, routine other matters for future agenda items, we have the skateboard park. Do you want to put Skunk Hollow Park on there also, just so that we can start cycling through, have it cycle through our meetings in case somebody does show up? And then obviously, dog park. And I don't know if there's anybody else that would like to add anything else. No?
That's it. So we're not meeting in April. Is that it? Are we meeting?
No, we are meeting
We
in
are meeting in
April.
April. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Not May.
April 22nd.
That would be our next meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
April 22nd.
Anybody have anything else? No? Okay, meeting adjourned.
April 22nd.
Thank you.